This Equipment World video is brought to you by Chevron Delo 600 ADF Ultra Low Ash Diesel Engine Oil. It's time to kick some ash. Hi everyone, welcome back to Equipment World. You're watching The Dirt. I'm your host Brian, and today we're going to talk about another one of those subjects I'm super passionate about. Well, you guys already know I'm passionate about this because we talk about it all the time. Workforce development, our labor shortage issue. How can you have an impact on the problem as a private contractor? And I'm very excited to say I've been looking forward to this interview. We are talking with Herb Sargent of Sargent, the company, the huge dirt contractor over on the East Coast. That's who we're talking to today. And we're going to talk to him specifically about Sargent Academy and how they are using that platform to help train employees for their company. But before we get into that, I want to take a second to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Chevron Lubricants. Protecting your diesel engine and its exhaust aftertreatment system has traditionally been seen as an either-or proposition when it comes to choosing the engine oil that's going to protect your system. And that's exactly why Chevron spent more than a decade of R&D work developing a no-compromise formulation. Now, I don't have to tell you why a clogged DPF is bad news, but here's the real kick in the pants. 90% of that ash clogging up your DPF and then upping your fuel and maintenance costs, it comes from your engine oil. You might be thinking, why don't they make an engine oil with less ash in it then? You'll be happy to learn that Chevron agrees with you. They've developed a new ultra-low ash diesel engine oil that is specifically designed to combat DPF ash clogging. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology cuts sulfate ash by 60%, radically reducing the rate of DPF clogging and extending the DPF service life by 2.5 times. Before you had to choose between protecting your engine or your aftertreatment system. Now you don't. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology. It's time to kick some ash. Well, Herb, thank you for being on The Dirt today. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, Brian, thanks for having me on. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too. I've really been anticipating this interview, believe it or not. So the first question I have for you is, could you tell us a little bit about Sargent Academy and how that works?
Okay, so Sargent Academy came up in 2015. It was kind of a dream that I had, and we knew that we needed to begin to replace some people that are aging out of the business. And we reasoned that, we don't need to go get 100 people, but if we can go chisel 10 to 15 really good candidates out of the workforce, and we're dealing primarily at the high school level, that we could bring those kids in, put them through a 6-week course, and we'd have some really good candidates to fill all the positions in the company, not just laborers, but eventually would be operators, foremen, drivers, superintendents eventually. And, we've got a few now that are on that track.
And so how long have you guys actively been engaging in this program now?
So the first year was 2016. So we had 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 and 21 have been limited due to the COVID restrictions. Because what we had done is we literally bring them in from all over the state of Maine, or even some from Virginia, some from New Hampshire. And we put them up, we went to a local university and we got one of their dorms. We put them up in the dorms. We feed them breakfast, we feed them lunch, and then we turn them loose at the end of the day. So we haven't been able to do that the last couple of years due to those limitations. So we've been doing the best we could, a week here and a week there with them, but we're anxious to get back to that robust classroom exercise.
When it comes to students actually partaking in the academy, is this a lot of classroom work, or is it more in the field, in the seat work? How's that structured?
So it's evolved somewhat over time. The initial year or two, we had a lot of heavy equipment involvement, and we still do. We want them to be exposed to heavy equipment and operating the heavy equipment and being safe around the heavy equipment. It really, when they come out of this academy, they're really laborers to start with, but we have a lot of classroom time. I'd say it's probably half and half, but there's OSHA 10, OSHA 30, and then a number of different rigging classes and different things to make sure when they go to work they're ready to go to work. We do some projects, like almost always we'll take some community project that somebody needs to get done, a little league field needs to be rebuilt or something like that, and we'll go do that with that crew. and they're all being paid. They come in as employees on day one, so they're being paid as they come in. And so there's a lot of outside work too. We teach them about basic of layouts, basic of blueprint reading, how to be safe around small tools, tamps, pumps, cut-off saws, but a lot of classroom time too, personal finance, education, retirement planning education, all that sort of stuff.
I'm going to upset people and ruffle some feathers here, but the common trope that likes to be touted around is that the younger generation doesn't want to work. What are you guys finding when it comes to getting people engaged in this program? And then on the backside of the program, how willing are the students to stick around and actually have a career in this industry?
So we've had varied successes between years, but what we've done a pretty good job making connections with people at the continuing technical education schools, the high school level schools, so that they tend to recommend people that they feel will fit in well with us. Overall, we've had a really good experience. As I mentioned, some of the ones from the earlier classes are now foremen for us. They're really driving work, and we've got some that are getting to be operators now. There's some of that. We've lost some. Some just didn't want to do it. But overall, I'd say, I don't like that painting with a broad brush. Like you said, you're going to ruffle some feathers because, generally speaking, anybody my age, and I'm almost 60, thinks that everybody is a millennial that's younger than us, right? That's just what we think. But, who's going to change the world for us? Who's going to change these things for us? Who's going to usher in the change we need, the technology? Who's going to usher in the new mindsets that we need in this industry? It's not going to be, guys that are my age and older. It's going to be the young guys. They're going to reshape it, and young guys and girls. And, we need to listen to them. The world's changing. We got to listen.
Yes, absolutely. So to take this on as a private company, to actually establish a training program, and not only a training program where people come and learn, but you're paying them to learn, that's a sizable investment. Are you guys seeing a return on that investment on the back end with the employees that you're getting by having them go through the academy?
You'd be surprised how expensive it is. By the time we pay our instructors, by the time we pay these students, by the time we set the equipment up, by the time we put them in the university dorm, it costs us between $10,000 and $15,000 per student to put them through this. But we are seeing some of these young folks just really stepping in to stride. They're finding their stride. We mentored them well through the years. We keep in contact with them. We have 3 instructors now that are keeping in contact with them. And man, they're the ones that are really going to change the way we work. I just feel so good about what they do, and they're just crushing it.
Over time, how do you see this program changing and evolving? Do you guys kind of have it honed in pretty well now, or is this something that you're continuing to improve upon? And if so, kind of where do you see that going?
So I think what's going to happen is we're going to shorten it from 6 weeks to something shorter. And this thing will change every year. It's just what we're going to do. We're going to change it every year, whatever works well and what doesn't. And we try to get feedback from the students on what they like, what they don't like, what they think is helpful. Because some of the things they don't like are actually helpful, right? So we have to kind of filter that. But for instance, we have considered dropping it to a 4-week initial class and then doing 2 weeks follow-up. So we get them like the day they get out of high school, they come to work for us. So we focus primarily on high school kids. The day they get out of high school, they come to work for us. They work a month. Then they go in the field and they spend the season in the field, and then they begin to learn what they didn't know, right? And then we bring them back in for a couple weeks, back in the spring or in the wintertime. So we might break it up 4 and 2 or something like that. We do now continue to have, we've added more pieces of training on, like now we have a heavy equipment operator training that we do 2 weeks a year, and I think that's going to expand pretty dramatically in the coming years. So those ones that want to go in the equipment route can come in and do the equipment classes and kind of help get them moved along there. In the summer, becoming what we call junior foreman, so they can come in the spring for training for those roles. So it's not just a one-time thing. It's as they progress, we continue to add. And what we like to say is we want to train people for a position ahead of where they're going next. Because what happens, in this industry is, we'll get busy in the summertime, and you'll go over and tap somebody on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I gotta move you up to this next position." And what we've found in the past is never really been trained for that. So now we're trying to train for the next position ahead, so that they, when they do get tapped on the shoulder and they're a foreman now, but now we're asking them to run a small job, that they have some of those skills and the rules they need to live by in order to do that.
So are you guys, just to kind of restate what you said earlier, really the goal of this program isn't to have a heavy equipment operator come out of this program within 4 to 6 weeks. This is more fundamental building blocks so that you can have a laborer that is now, they have enough knowledge to be dangerous so they know what they need to learn. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's really, that's a good way to put it, is that when they get out in the field, they have a greater sense of situational awareness, and they begin to understand the things they need to do and some of the various routines and structures they need to put in place to be more effective all the time and to advance.
Now, I want to totally shift gears, still talking about the labor problem, but not so much from Sargent Academy specifically. What's your view on how the industry needs to address the workforce shortage? Because you're very clearly taking a proactive role in that. How do you feel the industry needs to move forward in this realm?
Overall, we're way behind, right? I mean, when you have a problem, when you have a problem health-wise, the time to have addressed it was 10 years ago in the behaviors, and so we're way behind. To catch up with where we need to be is going to take a Herculean effort. But it would be helpful if, trade associations would take the lead on this. And I know some are, but frankly, I've been kind of mystified that some of the state level trade associations haven't been much more aggressive in trying to address this problem. And here it is, 2022, and this was a problem when we started our academy. We didn't really have a labor problem in 2016, but I knew one was coming just due to retirements and that sort of stuff. Just there needs to be a lot more. Well, number one, we need to make construction a worthwhile place to spend your life. And you and I have traded emails a little bit about. We say, come build a life with us, not just work 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week. And, we want people to come and build a life. And that's what the industry needs to do. We need to portray this way to earn a living as a way to make a life as well.
There's so many things to kind of unpack in everything that you just said. I do feel like a huge part of it is, traditionally on construction sites, people have been looked at it kind of along the same lines as a piece of equipment. It's an asset that the business has to create production. And the industry, or parts of the industry, I should say, are finally starting to come around. And that's really what got me so excited about Sargent, was you're viewing the employee as people and a living person that has a family and has desires that go beyond just working your life away for a wage. And I think that's been a huge hindrance to a lot of people getting into the industry, is we have just churned through people because traditionally we've had lots of people to churn through. And now the industry is changing to where we don't have the people to churn through anymore, and we have to adapt.
Right. So we've taken the approach that we leverage the projects to build people. Our business is building people, and those people build projects. That's the way we look at it. And we're just leveraging those infrastructure dollars that come in. is another way to build people, and not just build construction workers, to build people, to build folks that get involved in their community, folks that build margins of safety in their life, so that they have a margin of safety financially. If they lose a transmission, it's not a crisis. They have margins of safety in their health. They can take on some kind of an injury or whatever, or can be a little bit more aggressive at what they do and not be injured. That they have margins of safety in their relationships, so that people understand, if I come home late one night, and I'm not in a crisis with my wife because I'm home on time every night. So there's so many aspects of it that we're working on to just try to make sure that people have that really good margin of safety that allows them to be very resilient to any kind of a crisis that begins to unfold.
You guys haven't always been people forward to the extent that you are now. I mean, you guys have gone full on. You're an ESOP, and you are very much people focused. I know most contractors are going to, their big rebuttal to that is, well, this is an industry with hardly any margins, and how can you afford to possibly do that? There's no way. What advice would you give, or even I'll just outright say it, how could you take away the excuses for companies that may respond with that? How do you transition over to being a people-focused company?
This spending money on people also has to translate to reduce cost. It has to. But if you take any contract, I don't care what size you are, and if you take a look at what you spend on labor and equipment, and I'm talking about primarily in the dirt world, if you take a look at what you spend on labor and equipment and take 5% of that, and let's say you can reduce your cost by 5% by really training your people up well, it'll give you a pretty good budget. And so you don't make any more money necessarily, but you have less injuries, you get more jobs done on time. But I think in the end, what really is going to happen is at some point in time, this is going to turn. I've lived through 4 downturns in my career, and this is going to be a downturn again. And when it comes time to have that downturn, you need to be ready in terms of how you execute the work. It's going to be too late again. You need to do it now. The time to address those things is when times are good. My grandfather always used to say, contractors don't get in trouble in the bad times. They get in trouble in the good times when they let things, when they get complacent and they let things relax.
So let me ask you this, and I'm not looking for a fluff answer. I would like a very honest answer. Being a people-focused company, do you feel that has helped you guys win more jobs because of the character of the company, if you will? Or have you really noticed an impact on kind of the bidding side of this?
I would say being able to keep our costs, keep competitive that way with people who know what to do. There are a lot of projects that we get asked because of the type of people we put on the jobs. So there are those. When it comes right down to it, almost no matter what anybody tells you, it comes down to price almost always. And if we're reasonable, if we're within earshot, quite often we'll get selected. They know we're going to staff the projects with people who treat them like we treat our own people. There's a respect level there.
I will say, I have always been a firm subscriber to, when it comes to company culture, it is a top-down mentality. And I think you just summed it up right there. The fact that you view the employees, your management team views the employees the way that you do, directly translates to the way those employees are going to turn around and treat your customers on those projects.
Yeah, I really believe that's right. They're conditioned to understand what to expect from us, and it's respect. And that's not to say we haven't had problems with people that weren't a little domineering. But, by and large, those folks don't stick with us very long. They just don't fit in. And it's not that we fire them. I think they just don't feel the fit.
Just a cultural difference.
Right. It's a cultural difference, and they move on. But, yeah, it makes a difference. I think the way our people treat, they kind of mirror the way we treat them.
Well, Herb, I hate to wrap this up, but we're already, believe it or not, at 20 minutes. And so that's the one thing about this platform is you can't go super long, and so you can't get super down in the weeds. But I do appreciate your time today. I really do.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Well, thank you again for Herb coming on The Dirt to talk about this subject. I can't say it enough. I am just truly passionate about this. We as an industry are all in this together. And it is my personal opinion that we can't all sit back and cross our arms and wait for someone else to take care of the problem for us. This is an all hands on deck situation. And I feel like every contractor to some extent needs to get involved in helping with the labor force problem. It may not be starting a full-blown academy, and that's not my expectation, but could you possibly reach out to some job fairs in your local area? Maybe get involved at the high school level, volunteer some of your time to train middle school and high school students, maybe even host a little equipment rodeo or an open house at your business to get more people interested in the trades. Everyone needs to work together. This is not sit back and let someone else handle it. So thank you again for watching. I hope this has been helpful. We'll catch you guys on the next episode of The Dirt.